Aloha guys, and welcome back. So just continuing on pretty much where I left off. A few days have passed. I've gotten a little bit more stuff done. But this episode is going to focus on the shower, the bathroom, vanities. One there, one upstairs, of course. So this episode is going to focus on the bathroom vanities and getting them built and getting them installed. So thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, and let's get to work. So first off, some updates. As you can see, the mirror is installed in here. I have the caulking around the edge. This door I'm leaving here because I still need to do the backside, which my wife has yet to draw the design, but she's working on it. This door is installed, which was done before. So this one you guys saw in the last video, and then of course in here is the mirror. Yeah. So that door is done, installed. I do need to grab some different guides because these ones, the guides are not quite wide enough, so the door still moves a little bit. And then I still need to put in the receiver for this. I have not done that yet. The other big thing that I guess was done since the last video is the bedroom door. As you can see, the trim is on, nothing is caulked yet, but this door is done. And then it's kind of hard to see because the area is tight. Yeah, check out this one. This one's super nice. I like it a lot. I'll actually insert a picture of the full door so you guys can see it. So like I said, that door is done. This has the wider trim on it. So you can see the gap on there is very small now. So small, in fact, that I actually have to trim this just slightly where the handle is because the handle sticks out. Just because I can't even, that doesn't even go in all the way. So this door is going to come out again to do the backside. So when I do that, I'll trim this back, probably an 1/8 inch on either side. And then of course, all this trim has to get caulked and painted. And then this one, I pulled the trim off. I'm waiting to reinstall it till I get the door done, which is sitting down there on the sawhorses. So when I head up to the shop, I guess real quick, let me show this. So I kind of did the layout of the size of the vanities. If you see the lines on the wall. So this one is going to end up being about 13 3/8 looks like, which is basically the measurement here from this trim to the wall. So that's going to go straight across, and then the depth of this is probably going to be about 12 inches or so, 12 to maybe, I don't know, 16, somewhere in that range. Enough that you don't see this pipe directly, so yeah, I'll figure out that measurement when I get ready to build it. Because when you're sitting on the toilet, you don't want to see the plumbing. I mean, you may see a little bit of it, but not the majority of it. So that is done. Let me show the downstairs. All right, so for the downstairs, it's 40 inches wide. So you can see the pencil mark on the tile there. It's going to come out 24 inches and it's going to go down 24 inches. And this one will have a lower shelf built in to the vanity. And then there will be a spot for the plumbing, and then there will be a drawer. So the drawers for these are going to be kind of U-shaped, I guess, to wrap around the space for the plumbing. But that's the size of it right there, 40 inches by 24 by 24. All right, so before heading up to the shop, I realized that I needed to pull these sinks out and take a look at them. This is the sink for the upstairs. It is about, I think, just over 14 inches. And then this is the sink for the downstairs bathroom. So one thing I didn't realize when I ordered this is that this is actually a wall-mounted sink. So that might change a few things. Mainly, and because of the height of this, which I didn't really realize either, but I think this is actually going to go past taller than where the tile is on the backsplash, if that makes sense. So in here, this is about, I think I measured was just about 5 inches. So if you look at this here, where this is supposed to be my vanity top, right? So the sink is about, I think, 5 inches or slightly over 5 inches. So that's going to push this up to, let's say, there. So it's actually going to be sitting that much higher than the backsplash. So, excuse me. So what that means is I'm going to end up having to add additional tile up here, which I don't know if I like that or not. So I'll have to talk to the boss and see what she thinks, because then when it comes around the corner here, I don't know if it's going to drop down. I guess maybe we could do a slight angle or something there. I don't know. So I'm going to have to take that into consideration when doing these. But to build the vanity itself, it probably wouldn't make a difference. Then I can actually set the sink in place and get a better idea of what to do with this. Okay, so up in the shop, I have my plywood set up. This is 3/4 inch birch plywood. This is what I like to use for making cabinets. It's nice and sturdy and it looks good. You can also do 1/2 inch, but I don't think that I'd go any thinner than that if you're doing cabinets. So what I like to do is, when I get my measurements set up, I like to do a drawing just to give me a reference of what I'm going to need. And you want to lay out your pieces that you're going to be cutting, because you want to be able to lay them out on your sheet as efficiently as you can, because you don't want to just be cutting it, anywhere and everywhere. So basically what my drawing is here, 3/4 inch birch up there. This is for the half bath. This is for the upstairs vanity. So it's 36.5 inches wide. That's my installed width. And then it's 12 inches tall, and then it's 13 3/8 deep. So what I'm going to do to start is I'm basically going to just make a box. So the top one here, which is where the weight of the sink and the countertop and everything's going to sit on, I like to make that the full length. And then my verticals that are going to be tied into the wall, the top piece will actually sit on that on both sides, and then the bottom piece will be inside of those side pieces. And the thing about this is, when you're building cabinets, you have to, I guess, decide where you're going to put your pocket screws, or how you're going to attach this, because you want it to be somewhere that's not going to be seen. So in this case, I'll probably end up putting them inside here, because there's going to be a shelf in here. And then the top doesn't really matter, because that's going to be covered by the countertop. And then pocket screws will most likely go up into the top, and then same on both sides. So I have my pieces laid out what I need. So I have my 36.5 by 13 3/8, one piece. My 11 1/4, which I have to deduct the thickness of the top plywood, right? That's 3/4. So 11 1/4 by 13 3/8. So times 2, that's my two sides. And then the bottom piece, I need to deduct the 3/4 for each of the sides, which is 1.5 inches off. So it's 35 by 13 3/8. And then once this is done and I get it up there and I get the sink on it and I look at the layout, then I can figure out this. So this is going to end up being an interior piece, which will go in here. The height of this should be about 10.5 inches, because that's basically my overall height minus the 3/4 top and bottom. And then the width, I'm not sure on yet, and the depth, I'm not sure on yet. But that will get placed inside here once I figure out where the drain hole is going to go. And this will basically make a pocket, a cavity for the plumbing to go behind. And what I'll do is I will put screws in the front So if I need to access this for whatever reason, I can slide the drawer out and then I can remove this front piece and then get to the plumbing if I need to. And then I'll also be able to get to it from down below. And then the other thing about this one is I'm going to be making a bottom piece, which will just be, this is really weird looking at my phone and drawing. The bottom piece is basically just going to be a frame. Hopefully this is lining up. And then there will be a couple cross pieces in here. And then all you're going to see is this front face, which will be about 4 inches, and then the width. And then there's going to be another piece of the countertop that's going to go on there. So that'll be a lower shelf underneath the main vanity. So I'm going to get these pieces cut up and start putting them together. All right, so this is the small vanity. It's sitting on its back basically right now. So this would be the top, this is the front, this is the bottom. One thing that I didn't put on the drawing is adding a backing piece. So basically the square that's in here, I'll take that measurement, or putting this together, I can measure this, and then I cut a piece exactly that size, and then that will get screwed into the back and both sides. And what that will do is it'll make this very strong. It'll make sure that it's square. And then the front will essentially remain open right now until I figure out how I'm going to do the drawer. This front edges here is going to get, now I forget what this is called, but this is basically like thin veneer birch that has glue on the back. So you use an iron and you put it on here, and then you trim its size, and then you sand it. That's if you're going to be painting clear coat. Another option I could do with this one, since this is going to end up getting painted a color, is I could actually just do wood putty to fill these edges and then sand it to where it's smooth. So that's my two options. Edge banding, that's what this is called. I had to think about it for a second. So I'm gonna get the next piece cut, and then I'm gonna start doing pocket holes. Okay, so I have this back piece cut. I got my pocket jig, Kreg pocket jig set up. And another thing you wanna pay attention to when you're building cabinets like this is this birch, maple, whatever the plywood that you get, it usually has like a nice side and like a not so nice side. So like you see this side has all the knots and stuff on it, and then this side is like, much prettier. So anything that could be visible is you want to have that side facing, right? So as I build my cabinet, I'm going to put the nice sides all on the inside, right? Because if the drawer is removed, then you can see that, even though technically people won't see it, but everything else is going to be against the wall. The only one that's different is that the bottom one, I'll probably do the nice side facing down, because if someone looks underneath, then they'll see that side. So just one more thing to pay attention to. So I'm going to get the pocket holes drilled in this. And when you're doing this, there's not really, you can measure it and do them, exactly, or you can kind of just do them sort of spread out. Typically you'll want to have, like on this side, I'll do 2 at least. And then on this long side, I'll probably do 4, maybe 5 for the whole thing. And these will end up being on the back side of the board, which will be against the wall. And then they will screw into this frame. And then in addition, in here, I will be adding more pocket hole screws. So there will be some on this corner going up towards the top, on that corner going up towards the top. And then on this piece, there will be some in the base going outboard towards this. And that's going to lock everything together. So let me get all these pocket holes done. All right, so there is my first box. So this essentially is what they call a carcass. So if you're doing a set of cabinets, and it typically applies to every set of cabinets because they're all modular, they'll all be the same height, same depth, different widths depending on what it is, a shelf or cabinet or whatever. But basically the carcasses are the boxes that they make individually, And then when they install them into the kitchen or bathroom or whatever, they'll go in, each piece will get leveled and plumb and straightened to each other and then attached to the wall. So since this is just a vanity sink, this is pretty much all it's going to be. I am going to have the lower shelf like I was saying earlier. So the next step on this is I want to take it out and I want to actually test fit it and make sure that it fits in okay. Okay, so that's essentially in place. A couple of things that I did wrong. So I forgot about the trim piece here. So I had to take this back up to the shop and I had to cut basically 3/4 of an inch off of this whole thing and then put a 3/4 inch piece of plywood in there first. So that's what it'll attach to. The other thing is right now it's high. So where that piece of 3/4 inch plywood is, that's actually the top. The problem is, or the issue is, it's sitting on the drain line. So what this is going to allow me to do is to get under there, mark it with a pencil so that I know where that's at. And then that will be where my cutout's going to be, or where part of the cutout's going to be for the plumbing. And then this will drop down about, it's probably a little over an inch too high right now. But that's the basic shape of the carcass. So this could, in theory, go in right now because none of this is actually going to be seen. This is going to get a face on it and then a drawer. So I don't think I'm quite ready to put it in yet, but almost there. All right, so I got that marked out on the bottom. And then I have the sink in place. I marked the center line from wall to wall. And then I centered the sink on that, just kind of eyeballed it. And then I also traced around the sink. But you can see how this hangs over. This will be pretty close to the finished height. Because once the countertop is on, it's going to be about this high. It'll be maybe a 1/4 inch lower, 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch lower. But that's pretty close to the height that it'll be. Okay, so I think that I have this modified enough. So I drilled a 2 3/4 inch hole in the top. That should be enough for the retaining ring that's going to screw in to the sink drain. If not, then I'll have to, make this bigger. Which I have to go buy that sink drain. I didn't realize the sinks that I ordered did not come with them, so I have to go buy them. I notched out for the drain pipe that's going into the wall, so that should be more than enough space to get this level to the spot that I had marked. So I think I'm at the point now where I'm ready to install this. I will still add in pieces in here like I was saying, but I can do that after the fact. So once I figure out my exact spacing, because it may end up being narrower than this or whatever it ends up being, I can drill from the top and the bottom and then screw those pieces in. And then the piece that's on the front is going to screw in from the front. So if I ever need to remove it, I can remove it if I remove the drawer first. So yeah, next step is installing this down in the bathroom. All right, so before installing this, I went ahead and I cut this pipe and I actually glued this fitting on because it was never glued. I was waiting until I got ready to install the sinks to do it. So that is done now. So now I'm going to get this installed. All right, installed. So if I have to make any more modifications, of course, I'm going to do it in place, but I think I'm probably good. I think I'm going to call it a night though. I think it's getting close to 5 p.m. and I'm going to have to run to Home Depot in the morning to get those drains. I have all of the other components, I just don't have that one. So yeah, tomorrow. Okay, back up in the shop, and I did a quick sketch of what the main bathroom vanity is going to look like. Roughly, initially I was going to do this 24 inches out, but because of the size of the sink, I think I'm only going to do it 20. And the fact that it's a wall mounted sink, so it technically has to be back against the back wall. If I did it 24, then I'd have this big kind of space in front of the sink, which I think would be weird. So I cut it down. There will still be a little bit of space in front of the sink, maybe 3 to 4 inches. I believe the sink is like 16 to 17 inches out. And then 24 inches tall, 12 inches down will be the closed out part. So there will be a drawer in here, and then this bottom shelf will be open. It'll of course look a little bit different than this because it'll have, you know, the face trim and all that stuff will go on after the fact. But I'm going to start cutting out the pieces for this. So yeah, this is done. Access cut in the top. I'm going to close out inside. Access on the bottom shelf. So all of this interior is not going to be seen. This bottom shelf will be seen. That's going to be, you know, for towels and toilet paper, whatever. And then this wall, this side will be seen. Everything else is going to be under the counter, against the wall, And then this is going to get a casing or a face, what do they call it? Face plate? Yeah, I think it's called a face plate, something like that. I don't know all the terminology. But anyway, I'll get birch hardwood because this is birch plywood so that it'll match. And then you make basically a frame for this that matches this, and then it gets nailed to it. And it'll have a lip on the bottom. This will be flush. This will probably overlap a little bit here. It'll be flush on the top, overlap on the bottom. And then the sides will overlap on the inside. And then I'll have to figure out what my door face is going to be. Drawer face, not door face. The drawer face. And then I'll have to get a piece of birch. I could use plywood for that. I'll just edge band it. And then that'll get built, you know, when I get to that point. And then the slides will go in here, which I have to go pick those up still. But anyway, this is done. Can I help you? Oh, you're a good boy. Okay, now I gotta take this down to the Ohana. All right, down in the Ohana. And I just wanted to show this real quick. So I took a 1/2 inch piece of plywood and I put it in there because that is the same distance as the tile is. And I also cut the drain line and glued that fitting on. So that's all good. So I'm about to put this in, about to install this. One thing I was thinking about though is I may have to pull it off when I get ready to cut this copper because I'm not sure if the tool will be able to spin around. So I'm gonna hang it just temporarily. I'll just do like 2 screws just to get it in place. And then over here on the end, I'm actually going to have to drill through the tile over here to be able to get to that stud. So there will be 6 screws holding it on the back, and then I'm going to do also couple screws on the side, so it should be secure enough. Let me get this on there. All right, so yeah, like I thought, I will have to pull this off. I might be able to get the tool on there, but the way that works, it's supposed to spin around it to do a cut all the way around. But that's fine at that point. Right now I only have 3 screws in here. I got 1 there and then 2 in the middle. It's just enough to hold it in place. I'm gonna go to town tomorrow anyway. I have to buy those valves. Otherwise I would have done this already. Because I also need to get a drain for the upstairs vanity because the sink that we ordered didn't, like sinks typically don't come with them. When you buy a faucet set, it comes with the drain as well. So since I bought a faucet for this one, I have the drain, but for the upstairs I don't. So I gotta get that. All right, so I put the sink in place and I think we need to get a new sink. I just don't like this. I don't like how it looks. It's too high. I can't even push it all the way back against the wall. The faucet touches the mirror. So for this to work, the sink would have to drop almost all the way into the vanity so that it's basically the top of the sink is flush with that. And there's a fly flying around in here. I don't know why. So I'm gonna wait until the boss comes down and looks at it. But yeah, I don't think I like it. All right, so up in the shop, and I have this vanity cut down to where I need to cut it down. And since I picked up the slides today, I'm gonna go ahead and just finish this out completely, and then I'll go back and install it. So these are bloom slides. These are, everyone says these are high end, but they're about 20 bucks each, which is kind of expensive, but not super expensive. But these are the slides that you want to use when you're doing drawers. They have the soft close, you know, that type of function stuff is really nice. And then there's, once you create your drawer, there's a lock piece that goes onto the bottom, which is this piece here. So this clips in or screws into the bottom of your drawer, and then this clips into the rail. So this is for the left side. So when you slide your drawer in, it clips in and locks. And then if you need to ever pull the drawer out, you just squeeze this on both sides, obviously, because there's a lock on both sides. And then you can pull your drawer out away from the slides. So just continuing on with this, and then I'll get it finished up. Okay, so I am kind of at a point where this is done. As you can see, I have all of the front trim on. That's all solid wood. It's just pine, common board they call it, or you know, the strips you get that are like those right there. This was going to be clear coated, and then my wife decided she wanted to paint it, so now we're going to paint it. So that's why I went with the pine instead of getting birch to match when we were going to clear coat originally. So this is to the point where it's pretty much done. The drawer slides are installed. The next step now is going to be making the actual drawer. This does need some sanding still. You can see I put wood putty over my nail holes and the seams. So that'll get sanded. This will get painted. The whole front face will get painted, and then this whole bottom area will get painted as well as this side here. The rest of it will not get painted because it's either going to be against a wall or it's going to be covered by the countertop or inside the drawer. There's no point in painting that, or underneath behind the drawer, I guess. So the drawer face, of course, will get painted as well once I build that. When you're doing, I guess when you're building these drawers, it's a little tricky the way that these work. So these bloom slides are fully adjustable, but there's a piece here. If you can see, there's a little part that sticks out. So this actually goes into the back of the drawer. So when you build your drawer box, it actually sits on this rail. So the side wall goes down below this, and then the bottom of the drawer sits here. Goes across, same thing on there. And then you measure it so that the drawer lines up with the face. And then depending on the slides, you have to also check your spacing, right, to where they go to get mounted. So I did mount these already. They can be moved. You can see all the screw holes. So if I end up having to move this forward or back, I can change that. You have a lot of spots where you can screw it in. That way you want to make sure that the front is flush. And then there are some adjustments on here too. So this has adjustments here that go, this thing can move up and down, and it can move in and out slightly. So yeah, there's a lot to it. So let me continue. All right, so I'm down in the Ohana, and I'm getting ready to do the valves. So this is a shark bite valve. Pretty much the same thing as what I used for the toilets when I did those. But I was going to actually show it this time since I didn't really show that last time. So these valves come in, I don't know, several configurations. You know, you have different size hoses and all that, different size pipes that this goes onto. But basically when you cut this, you push it on, and then That's it. And then these things can spin. Even once they're installed, they can spin freely. They don't leak. And then you have your valve. So same as the toilet valve. When it's pointed towards the hose, it's open. When it's 90 degrees out, it's closed. And then I have the tool here. And the way that this thing works, which I wanted to show. Ooh, that's going to be tight. So basically, you put this on the spot where you want. You turn this knob, and that blade tightens down, and then you spin it. So as you spin it, you do a little tighten on there, and then spin it some more until you go all the way through the copper. And I can't do this one-handed, so let me do this, and I'll be right back. And then, of course, make sure your water is off, which I already turned my water off, and I drained the pressure in the line, because this is a cold water line, so technically there's cold water in here right now. So the lines are cut. You can see there's a little bit of water still dripping out of here, but didn't get too much on the ground, small bit. And then the last thing you want to do is take some sandpaper and clean up the copper, and then this thing just pushes on. So you want to make sure that it fully seats, and then that's it. So, and then the other one, sorry, I gotta put this cap on. Okay. And the other one, so these ones have these little caps that are just decorative, I guess. And that's it. So then this can spin to wherever you need it to, and you can adjust this cap so that, I guess this is more for if it's visible. You won't really be able to see these. So, and because of the lines I have, I can pull these off. These are actually made to have a copper line go into it, or could be a plastic line, but the hoses that I have go right onto this. So, all right, let me get the vanity installed. All right, so that is installed, and you can see the color that we painted it. So 2 coats of paint. The toilet paper holder obviously is installed. The shelf here is fully painted. That's tile on the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and install the sink. And I'm actually gonna hook it up. It'll be installed temporarily just so I have a sink in here. And then once we get the countertop figured out, I'll just disconnect it. So we matched this, and I think they did a pretty awesome job. This is like identical to that color of the tile. So turned out really good. Let me get this sink installed. So drain line's hooked up, valves are hooked up, and they're open. And water. So there's no hot water yet, of course, but we'll get there eventually. So this is for now done. All right, so continuing on, I know this video is getting very long. I think I'm over 35 minutes now, but whatever. I'm just gonna keep going with it till I get these vanities done. So as you can see, I pulled out the top, I put in the bottom. I have the top right here. I'm actually gonna take that up to my shop so that I can work on it up there. To get the face done, to get the closeouts for the cover for the plumbing, and then get the drawer slides and everything put in. Yeah, so just gonna keep going. I have the trim cut for this door. This door is back in now, and it is actually done. So let me back up. So you can see the design for that door. So I just gotta get the trim back on, and then get everything painted, all the trim painted. And then this pattern, it'll be the same pattern, except it's going to have about a 2-inch border around it added. Will be what will be on the inside of this door, so that they match since they're in the same room. So yeah, that one's done now, installed, painted, good. So I just got to get the trim finished, and then this door is totally done. And of course the mirrors on this, you guys saw that when it was downstairs. Yeah, so the mirror's on. Hi. All right, so let me take this back up to the shop and get to work on that. Oh, also, picked up mattresses, and the couch was delivered. So yeah, we have a couch now. No floor, but we have a couch. All right, up in the shop, and it started raining. You can hear it on the roof. So I think I got this one done to the point that I can put it back in. I have the rails on here, as you can see, and these may get adjusted still. So I do them, I mount them in there like that so that I can get my measurement across for the drawer, but they can be pulled out and then adjusted if they are, needed to be adjusted. So I guess I'm not going to take this back down to the Ohana right now. I gotta wait till the rain lets up. All right, I have it installed back in the Ohana, and as you can see, I have paint on it, or I put a couple coats of paint. So this is the final install, and then what I'm going to do now is take some measurements so that I can cut the countertop, and then the shelf. They're both going to be the same material. All right, so back up in the shop. By the way, see the new paint can holders I made? Pretty cool, huh? Did that on the laser. So I have this giant basalt paver. So basalt is volcanic rock. These are cut in slices like this, and they're used for pavers, to put like a sidewalk pavers, that go on the ground. But anyway, we're going to use this for a countertop. So the side that has more pukas, which is holes, is going to be for the bottom shelf, and the one that's more solid is going to be for the countertop where the sink will be. I am going to fill all of these holes with grout anyway. On the top side, on the bottom side, probably we'll just leave them because that's just going to be a shelf for towels, whatnot. So what I did was I kind of made a template of the size that I need for the countertop, and I'm going to put this down. I'm going to put tape on here, and then I'm going to mark out all the lines, and then I'll cut through the tape. And then the back side where this is cut is almost going to be even to where the bottom piece will be. This is going to end up being a little bit long, a couple inches maybe. So I'm going to experiment with like hitting with the hammer and kind of trying to break it off maybe. We'll see how it's going to go. So I'm going to get this laid out with tape, and then I have a masonry saw blade that's made for cutting concrete, and I'm going to use that to cut this. Okay, so that is cut. That was pretty dusty. Even using the vacuum to try and catch all the dust, it was still pretty dusty. I don't want you in here. Hey, out, go. And there's the other piece that'll be for the lower shelf. So I'm gonna go down and fit this, or see if it fits, and see if there's anything that I have to trim. And then check out this corner, because this part here sticks out a little bit. Out here is the distance I need it to be, so I may end up trimming some of this off. And I'll probably have to cut the majority of it. I tried to do a scribe here and hit it with the hammer, and it broke back here, so I definitely don't want to do that on this. So let me take this down and see how it fits. Okay. That's got to be top 3 of most frustrating things I've done on this build. So this is my 3rd time bringing it down. So carrying it down, didn't fit, carry back up, cut, carry down, didn't fit, carry back up, cut. So doing that 3 times, and it finally fits. And I messed up the wall a little bit, of course. over here also that can be fixed. Oh my gosh. Plus this thing weighs probably 80 pounds at least, maybe heavier, because it feels as heavy as an 80-pound bag of concrete. So anyway, that's in. I think it's almost 6 p.m., so I'm going to call it a night, and I will start on that one tomorrow. Okay, it's the next morning, and as you can see, I got the bottom shelf cut. This one, of course, went right in. The edges are, as you can see, they kind of round over there, so it wasn't quite as deep all the way across as I was hoping. So I'll just end up painting that. That little exposed part, I painted a little bit of it, but not enough. And yeah, then that one will get glued down with construction adhesive. And then this one we're just going to leave. I'm not going to fill the holes with grout or anything like that. So that one is essentially done, just needs to be glued down, and then I'll probably do caulking around the edges. And this one, what I need to do now is I need to get my mark on here for the drain, and then I'm going to drill a hole in there with my tile saw, or tile hole saw, the same one I used when I was drilling out the tile for the drain vents or drain pipes. It's still early, it's like 7 a.m. so all right, let me get back to work. Okay, back up in the shop, starting to work on these drawers. This is for the main bathroom. I'm not showing a lot of this because I don't want anybody to look at this as a how-to video, because I'm far from an expert drawer maker. But essentially what you do is you get your measurements from your slides that I installed already, and then that gives you your inside measurement, which here, so this will sit on the slides. So for bloom slides, you go a 1/2 inch up, you cut in your dado, you know, for the thickness of your plywood. I'm actually using 1/2 inch plywood on the bottom. I'm doing 3/4 on everything else. Normally you would do the same, but because this drawer is so shallow, I wanted to get the extra 1/4 inch of space. So this is actually the back of the drawer. This is the front of the drawer. So I need to cut a piece now that's going to go inside here flush. Basically flush with the top, so it won't cover this board. This board, technically, or at least the way that I was taught, you're supposed to be able to slide this board out, and then you could replace it if you need to down the road for any reason. So I will continue on this, and of course this is going to get a cutout. I'm just making, you know, starting with square shape and then going from there. All right, no sooner did I say I didn't want this to be a educational video and I completely messed this up. So I had screwed this on the outside instead of this on the outside. This was on the face, if that makes sense. So I came down to fit it, and of course it was too narrow, and I had to cut a whole new bottom piece. Anyway, I'm back down here now, and basically what I did is I put this in place and I put some marks. So if you can see right there, there's a tab that locks into the back. This metal tab right here locks into the back of the drawer. So I put a mark there on both sides. And then what I also did is I pushed the drawer in, and then from underneath with a pencil, I marked where the side is there. And then I marked it on the inside, of course, so then I'm going to go 1 inch past so that I have clearance for that plumbing area. So now back up to the shop. All right, so this drawer is fully framed out, I guess, built. Got little holes in there for the tabs on both sides, pocket screws on everything. I'm getting ready to do the edge banding right now. And basically the way that this works, there's like a adhesive on the back side of this, so you just take an iron You could use like a regular household iron. I have one that I bought specifically for doing edge banding, because sometimes you do get a little glue on it, so you don't want to use like your wife's iron, you know. They do make irons just for edge banding, but they're like, you know, $50 to $100. So I just bought an iron for 20 bucks at Walmart. So I'm gonna get this edge banding on, and then I'll put on the locks and then go down and fit it. And then I think I'm gonna end up putting some kind of a lock on the inside so that this drawer doesn't open all the way out. I'm gonna let it open till this is about at the edge exposed, I guess. Just because when the drawer opens all the way, there's almost no room to stand, so there's no point in opening in that way. Then there will be a drawer face on here that'll cover that part up, so if you were wondering about that. Let me get this edge banding on. All right, so I have the edge banding on, and the easiest way to clean this up is to use a flush trim bit on the router. That's the one with the bearing on the bottom. You basically just run it along the edges and it cuts down, because the edge banding is actually like 1/8 of an inch wider, maybe a little less than 3/4 inch plywood. So that's all done. Now the next part is going to be installing the locks. And these are pretty simple. You just push them right into the corner, and then there's 2 screws that go in here. And then if everything's measured right, it should lock into place. All right, so once you have it down in your cabinet, you slide your rails out, because right now it's just sitting on top of the rails. So the locks are under there, so you can see it's just sitting on top of the rails. And then all you do is you push it in, and you keep pushing it until you hear it lock. So it clicks, and then now it's in there, and it's stopped. And then you want to make sure the back doesn't lift. So if it goes into those little tabs, then you know that it went into the tabs, so it doesn't lift. So like I was saying, this is probably, I'm going to put some stops in here so it opens only about that far. So let me continue. All right, so this is what I'm going to do for my lock. This piece here will be removable. This piece I will take down there with me, and it's going to get screwed to the underside of the counter, the countertop essentially. So this piece, since the screws are going to come in from the top, this piece is going to be permanent, because once the countertop goes over it, I won't be able to access that. But then I can reach in with my drill and I can get to these, and my drill fits in here, you know, within the drawer. So I can pull that out to pull the drawer out if I ever need to. But then it'll still give you pretty much full space of the drawer that I built. So that's done. All right, back down in the Ohana. I was about to install this, and then I realized that once I put this block in, which is going to go right here, that it was actually hitting, the drawer was hitting it. So I had to take the drawer back up, and I cut a little notch in there, you can see, so that the drawer will still be able to be pulled out with this block installed, because once this is screwed in, it's going to be under the countertop. I'm not going to have access to it anymore. So now that I have that notch, let me get this installed with the locks, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, installed. So it hits the block, it touches, stops this flush with that, which is what I wanted, or I guess my wife wanted. And then the soft close. So this will now, it's now ready to get the face, which I need to make and paint and install. All right, switching my attention back to the upstairs vanity. I got this marked for the drain for the sink. So now I'm going to pull this off and use my tile hole saw to cut a hole in this, and make sure that everything's still lined up with the bottom. And once that's done, I think that I can actually glue these in, both of these basalt pieces. So that's done. Yeah, that was a little tricky. but it's done. Now hopefully this hole is big enough for the drain and the nut and everything that has to go on there. We'll see. All right, so this is the last door. Well, this is the door that has the Polynesian design with the plumeria or the hibiscus on it on the back side. So this is the inside of the bedroom door, I guess. And I just glued all these pieces on after painting them earlier today. So this is the last door to get done. I'll show it after it's installed too. And I've made more progress up here. So earlier today, I grouted this. I mean, I know it still probably kind of looks the same on camera, but these holes are filled in now with the black grout. I still have to seal it. I just glued this down and installed the sink. So I can actually run the water in here now. I'm waiting till tomorrow once the construction adhesive dries, and then I will grout all the edges on here. I'll take the sink off, grout all the edges, and then once that sits for a day, I'll seal all of this. Probably a couple coats of sealant. And I have the drawer box built. It's not fully built, but you can see the flexible drain line down there. This drawer box, I wanted to wait until I actually got the sink installed with the drain line so I could get a better idea of where I can push this to, because this is going to end up being a very narrow slot right here. So yeah, I'll work on that more tomorrow. But it's getting there, almost done. Okay, next morning, back out at the Ohana. I made a jig on the laser, and I did this side already, so you can see that there's a slight dip in there, an 1/8 inch, and then I'm going to do the same on this side. This will be for the handle, I guess, part of the door to pass through, because this one was not working. And now I have to do it on that door as well once I put in the new trim to make it tighter. So I have to pull that door out and do the same thing. All right, in the upstairs bathroom, pulled the sink out, obviously, and I grouted the edges around here. So now this is going to need to sit probably till tomorrow, and then I will put the sealant on. There we go. All right, I'm back up in the shop, and I have the drawer faces made. They're painted. They feel like they're just about dry. So this is for the upstairs, the darker green, and then this is the downstairs. These are different only because the size that they had to be. So this one is actually a solid piece of wood, and then I routed the edge, as you can see. It's got a little bit of a detail on there. This is a piece of plywood, and I edge banded it, and then sanded it and painted it. Just because the plywood is slightly thinner than this wood, so I think it would have stuck out, you know, like a 1/16 of an inch from the cabinet, but we'll see. So as soon as these are totally dry, I'll take them down and get them installed. All right, so here's the finished drawer. Basically 2 kind of deep pockets and then a shallow spot here. That's the space that I had, so I just tried to make the best I could. And then the drawer face is on, so it'll look something like that. It sits just a little proud, but with the depth that I have, that's the smallest slides they have. So I don't know if there's enough adjustment, but it's sticking out probably an 1/8 inch. I don't know. I'm fine with that, I guess, as long as my wife doesn't complain. But I think she'll be fine with it. We'll see. And then that is the downstairs drawer. So again, has deeper pockets on either side. Stops just short of the face. So, yep, good. Then of course, when the countertop goes on, I might have to adjust this. Hopefully I won't. It depends on how big of a lip's on the countertop here. So we'll see. I may have to drop the drawer face down a little bit, but we'll see once we get to that. Okay, back again. So a couple days have passed. I've sealed this top. I did 2 coats of sealant on there. I just glued in the bottom shelf, and I'm about to mount the sink. So I did silicone basically on this lip, which is the bottom. Just on the inside of the lip, I left a gap about 1 inch on each side, just so air can get in there so it fully cures. I'm not really too concerned about this leaking because it's just a single vessel sink, and it should be fine. So the silicone's more just to secure the sink in place. So let me get that put in and get the plumbing hooked back up. And there we go. So everything's hooked back up, water running. Just have to put the drawer back in, and this bathroom is totally done. And that's it. So now this bathroom is completely done. So, of course, I'm sure my wife's gonna add some artwork or plants or something up here, but as far as I'm concerned, it's done. And then the door, that's the finished door on this one. And this door is finished now. Get back installed. So, yeah. And I think that is going to be the end of this very long video. All right, guys. Well, anybody that stuck in this long, thank you very much. This video's got to be like an hour long by now. But I just wanted to get those vanities finished up. You can see the one in there. Of course, still need to get a countertop for that, but that won't happen until after I build the kitchen cabinets, and then most likely we're going to have matching countertops, because that's typical when you do a house. Countertops usually match. Not always, but in most cases. So, I mean, this is very close to being done. What I'm going to be starting on next is going to be the flooring. So I'm going to start putting down the cement board today. I don't think I'm going to record any of that because it's pretty basic stuff, pretty boring. And I'm not sure when I'll do a video again. It may be in a couple more weeks after this one, or a little longer, because the only thing really that I have left to do is the building the kitchen cabinets, which I'll probably do a video showing that, but I don't think I'll show much of the process just because there's way better videos on YouTube showing how to build cabinets than what I do. And then the only other video I'll probably be doing is going to be getting all the water systems set up. So catchment tank, water heater, pump, pressure tank, all that stuff. Because that could easily be a whole episode in itself. But yeah, we are in the final stretch, guys, so I'll stop blabbing and say goodbye for this video, and I will see you guys on the next video. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Aloha.